makes us feel good. We only want to hear what we think somebody else is confirming. If it's not confirmed in the word, I don't care if 5 or 6 people are saying. If it's not being confirmed through the writings, then why are we choosing to let it be confirmed and let it be so? Because of the people, the amount of people that have put their 2 bits into it. That's where we err, because we allow the populace and not the truth of the word to be that suddenly, or the proof and the evidence that causes and accept the decree or accept what is being said. And this has been a major problem from where I sit with the many of the people that I see in the truth. It is because of our mindset. And many times we won't believe, but it is. You have to understand, when we are living in truth, then we have a mindset that is different from everybody else. But it is hard to find that mindset when we come into truth and everybody continues to do the same thing over and over again. So we basically really say, well, that must be the mindset. God, that must be the mindset. But you have to understand something. The mindset has to be, once again, given over to the Torah. So when the Torah takes full control, even when something sounds right, go and we will weigh in the balance that the information that we are getting is not heresy, but it is founded in the truth, the unadulterated truth of the Bible. It is important that we understand mindset. And until we change that mindset, we will continue to go down that path when now, when something arises, we're ready to fight against each other instead of fighting with one, coming to an agreement and said, hey, let's talk about, we won't do it. Yo, this is the issue. If it is for us, then let it be for us. Right. And if someone comes in and violates the code of who we are or attacks us, then it is only right what is right. That's not getting in our feelings. Are y'all following me? Come on. We're in a community and it says for blacks only, but yet we got everybody else. They can say whatever they want. And then we turn on each other because of those that say, no, this is not right and this shouldn't be posted. Well, because if it is strictly for us, and then people say, well, it's for the moderator. If the moderator lets it, now someone would say, huh? Someone would ask the question, well, why is that important? It's important because if we don't acknowledge and recognize that's a mindset that has been drilled into us through the ages, from our ancestors on down and on down, then we will never. Now, read truth, the Hebraic mindset, one of the most fundamental differences between the Western Hellenistic mind and the Hebrew mind is found in the area of knowing versus doing. Many times we know things that we're supposed to do, but when we know to do right and we don't do right, it is a what to us? It is a sin according to the writings. It violates Torah. It violates the instructions, the guidance, and the teachings of our one. Are y'all following me? Now, this is important that we understand too. Now, listen at this. In fundamentalist Christian circles, it is often more important to believe the espouse the right thing than to live the right way. This is why we are so obsessed with creeds, doctrinal statements. This mode of thinking is thoroughly Western, utterly Greek. Instead of us doing what we're supposed to do, guess what happens? We end up following that Greek or that Hellenistic way because we feel like, well, if we just do this over that, this will make it right. That doesn't make it right. We have a code of conduct that we are supposed to carry ourselves by. And when that code of conduct is breached, guess what? You leave it if you want to, and if you don't, that's up to you. But it causes ripple, not you do. But it's almost like when Morpheus told Neo when he first came out of the Matrix, almost in tears, and he said, the reason you're feeling this way is because you never had to use them until now. Never had to use his eyes until he got out of that fake world into the real world. Now that we're in truth, we've got to begin to understand there is a way that we are to live in truth. And that ought to bring forth an expression, and it ought to make statements. Even when we don't open our mouths, there should be statements that are louder than what we speak, because it shows our actions. It shows the code of conduct. Many times the issue comes in, we don't want to accept it, but many times, y'all, we still have that mindset of that Hellenistic mindset, that Western mindset. We're real cliquish and we don't want to admit it. Real cliquish. Cliquish. Just connecting because we are true Hebrews. What about connecting because of that and not because, oh man, they got this and they got that? What about, once again, just connecting because we are Hebrews? It's important that we understand that. Why is it important? Because until we grab a hold of this truth, y'all, wasting our energy fighting one another when we have a greater fight that is ahead of us. And many of us don't believe that. And the issue, once again, comes in is the mindset. Now we're going to look at that mindset, Hellenistic way versus the Hebraic way. These prophets and their followers did not simply think truth, they experience truth. Many explain to you how we experience truth. Y'all follow me? And it's not to throw a bad light or to try to make anybody feel bad, but if you can't explain to me how you've experienced truth, that's a problem. Because once you find out who you really are, the next thing is to seek, how can I please the one who's called me into this, and how can I begin to live and think and act like who? But now that I know who I am, there's a code of conduct that we are supposed to carry. Are y'all following me? It's important for us to understand that. Our ancestors or our people that are closest to us, like our grandmothers, great grandmothers, and all those, the code of conduct was lost and severed for many of us. So all we knew to do was rush to the first thing that gave us some type of relief and gave us some type of false hope. So many of us ran the Christianity mindset. Is that as long as it covers me and gives me a false sense of security and hope, then I'll hold on to it. It's just like somebody believing that they can go from Florida to Cuba, watch this, on a made raft and not a real boat. Now, many times people have gotten over here on stuff, you know, probably from Cuba to Florida on other stuff. But think about all the people that died. That was an exception and not a rule. So when you are trying to get in uncharted waters and waters that are very, because you're not suited or you're not prepared for it. And this is the problem. We have too many people out here that's saying, I'm in truth, but your code of conduct says differently. Conversation about truth without it going into the negative, going to the dark side. Now you got to be this person, and now you got to be called that, and now it's this, that, and the other. I'm like, y'all, really? Now we're being called stupid. Now we're being called this and that. Y'all, that's a problem because that's a mindset. That's a mindset. And until that mindset is broken, we'll continue to follow in those steps. It's important that we understand that. Now, thus we can perhaps better appreciate the Apostle Paul's call to pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5:17. Mysterious reversal, in the mysterious reversal of life, and like Ayab to Baruch Yahuwah, whether he gives or takes away. Once again, I explained that even on the way. Then that's what happens. Are y'all following? No explanation or anything. One of the things that many times we try to do is explain what the Abba has done and what he's doing. And how he did it, just but we try to make up excuses and we try to explain everything. There are some things that just cannot be explained but need to be accepted. And that's a problem because this is how we get into trouble. Are y'all hearing me? Now, the reason I said that is because I want to read some stuff to you. The first thing I want to do is go in the writings. We're going to look at Romaiah chapter 12, and we're going to look at verses 1 and 2. This is the verse for our platform for what we are getting ready to look in these last few minutes. 12, verses 1 and 2. I hope y'all are following me. All right. All right. All right.
I beseech ye, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is great, acceptable, and perfect will of you. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, someone will say, okay, but we're already doing that by keeping the feast. We keep the Sabbath. You know, many say to the best of their ability, but you got to understand, hit the mark. We don't miss the mark. The Torah is that leading and guiding force that helps us to hit the mark. That's the only thing that can help us hit the mark. Everything else, we're going to miss it. Christianity we were nowhere near it.
That's right.
Anything you do outside of walking in Torah truth, you're going to miss it. And many will say, when you say Torah truth, does that mean the new covenant? No new covenant, renewed covenant.
Mm-hmm.
Renewed. There is no new covenant. It is the renewed covenant with the letter, the Pauline letters, and with the apostles, the disciples, all of those telling their story and showing us the things that they did in order to maintain a lifestyle that was pleasing to the Abba through Yahushua our Mashiach. This is why, once again, it's imperative that we understand present your bodies a living offering, set apart, well-pleasing to Yahuwah, your reasonable worship. The reason you have to present your whole body, because guess what? With your whole body, your five senses come along with it. That smell, touch, taste, hear. What is the other one? Sight. So you see these things, you feel these things, you hear these things, you smell these things. A thorough, physical. There are times, give 2 or 3. Now keep your hand on Romans chapter 12. All right. Chapter 3.
Verse.
All right, let's see. I think it's in chapter 2. Hold on, let me I think it's in chapter 3. Okay. Okay, yeah, it's in chapter 1. Chapter 1. Let's look at chapter 1. I thought it was chapter 3 and chapter 1. I want to start let's start at verse 12. We're going to read verse 12 and we're going to read all the way to verse 27. That's where we're going to start. All right, let's read. Three.
The test, you will receive the crown of life that Yahuwah has promised to those who love him. When tempted, no one should say Yahuwah is tempting you. For Yahuwah cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he, by his own desire,
Read it loud.
Then, chapter 15. Then, when desire has conceived it, giving birth to sin, and sin, when it has been accomplished, brings forth death. Do not go astray, my beloved brothers. Every tub gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Abba of lights, with whom there is no change, nor shadow of turning.
And it is all right. 18, 19. Read out.
Having purposed it, he brought us forth by the Torah of truth, for us to be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. So then, my beloved brothers, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of power.
And it is so. Now, we're going to keep reading, but I want to stop right here. Having purpose that he brought us forth by the word of truth, which is the Torah, for us to be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. So then, my beloved brothers, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man does not work the uprightness of power. We see this and we hear it, but yet we don't by words and by different things or people's opinions. And instead of us stating it and not getting to a point to where now we be verbally vicious and aggressive, we go overboard. There's one thing to rebuke a person. It is another thing. I'm talking about your brother, your Hebrew brother or your Hebrew sister, to where now it's mudslinging and it's name calling. How is that the code of conduct for Yasharal and the mindset of Yasharal? That's not the mindset. That's the Hellenistic and Western way. You hit my dog, I kill your cat. It's not one of those, okay, you hit me, then I'm going to hit back. I'm going to show you that I can stand and say what I have to say without being malicious and basically lowering my standards to bring my point across. Like ravenous wolves against one another. We will turn around and we will act like strangers to one another because of different opinions. And then when we side with somebody else beside our own people, that's a mindset, y'all. We've had that drilled into us for so long that many times we don't even realize when we're reacting upon that mindset instead of stopping a minute and really doing what the writings say. So then let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak. Let's read 21, 22, and 23.
And they read, therefore, with humility, set aside all moral filth and the growth of wickedness, and welcome the word planted deep inside you. Those who hear but don't do the word, but those who hear but don't do the word are like those who look at their faces in a mirror. And it is so.
Go ahead, finish reading because 24 is part of 23.
Okay. They look at themselves,
and overflow of evil. Filthiness and overflow of evil. Do you not realize that if you get a sore, a scratch, or anything on your body and you don't tend to it, that can tend to become infected? And once you deal with it, it is the same thing with filthiness. It is the same thing with evilness. If we do not get this thing on wraps, the overflow of evil, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which we have truly bargained for. Once again, I'm reading to you from the writings. Many times people issue until it comes on our doorstep. We cannot be pleasers of men. Either we're going to please Abba Yahuwah or we're not.
God.
But many of us, we have a horrible heart. Something to one person and then go back behind the other person's back and say a whole nother thing. Y'all don't believe me? Test it out. It's the truth. Our people, we're backbiters. You'll say one thing to one group, but you'll disregard this group of people. Yo, that's a problem. But yet we tell us to do. We are to receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save our lives, and become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving ourselves. Not have the same thing. We would not. These things would not be going on if we were all striving for the same thing. It has become a battlefield on Facebook. You can believe that if you want to, and if you don't want to, trust me, you will see. For many of us, we don't have any issues with that because we're cliquish. Y'all don't believe it, but it's the truth. It is the truth. The issue comes once again when we have that mindset. Guess what kind of mindset that is? That's a Hellenistic mindset. That's not a Hebraic mindset. Remember, we as a people, we want all of our people to prosper and be baruch. We want all of our people to go forward. But then there's always that little catch in there. Y'all, many of y'all know what I'm talking about, and many of you don't. But y'all, as a people, if we do not get it together, you think the road is rocky. It's going to become even more, it's going to become rockier. Go back to the Avengers. One thing about what was his name again? Ultron. Ultron, whole goal was make them feel like their calling and their purpose to be an Avenger was in vain. Now I know I'm using a movie, a scenario of a movie, but you got to understand something. Art imitates life all the time. We as a people, it's the same thing. Well, we can't fellowship with this person, or we can't fellowship with them, or we trying to fellowship with everybody. And done, we start looking at these things, and then we get upset. Y'all, come on, gadgets. You got the people, the fake people, trying to tell us they're better than us because of the way we act towards one another. And you got many of us that have bought into that lie.
Right.
And we ain't trying to do anything different to prove them wrong. You're following us. We are to become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving ourselves. If we are to give, according to Yahushua son of Nun, chapter 1, and you go into verses 5, 6, 7, and 8. And when he tells us that we are to take all of the Torah, access, are you hearing me, to our mind, and we allow it to do, we're going to prosper on the platform. It also tells us in Devarim chapter 6, it tells us in Devarim chapter 6 that we are to give Torah access to our minds. They were so-called dedicated that they created boxes. That's why it tells us, it says basically put it on your head. You have to put it in your heart in order for it to get your head. That's why he tells us to fulfill. In other words, to give Torah access to your mind. Do not give the Torah access to your mind. Your mind has nothing to process. Your heart cannot bring out what's not in it. Many of us got on board and we just rolled the way. And then when we're brought, when we're told many times, we get angry. That ain't me. That ain't me. But have we checked ourselves? Have we done according to what Yaakov says in chapter 1 and verse 23? Because anyone is a hearer of the word, not a doer, he is like a man who looks at his natural face in a mirror for himself and goes away and immediately he was like. Are we really looking into the Torah and seeing ourselves and walking away, or are we really seeing ourselves? Or when we look in the Torah, do we really recognize who we are? Or is it just us speaking and saying it, but then when it's time for the proof, are we really giving forth proof? Are we really showing that we are the children of Yahshua? Or is there something else? Y'all, there's no way we can look into the writings and then walk away and as though there's nothing wrong. We know as a people, we are suffering. And I'm not just talking about financially. I'm talking about we are suffering because we are still trying to establish a bridge. We still come right back to square one. That's a problem. That's an issue. And people can say, but up here they're doing, okay, if you have to say they're up there and we're down here, that's still a problem. Because if we're all supposed to be going to the same place and doing the same thing, then that means we need to start pulling together on every platform that is truth. I ain't talking about having a form of truth. I'm talking about walking in truth and have the fruit to prove it. Are y'all following me? That's important. It's so important that it's not funny. Because many times the mindset, we look into the word, many times we don't recognize who we are because the mind can't comprehend. We start seeing certain things and we're thinking, that's really not me. But let us engage in a situation and let's see how we act. Are you following me? That's important. Are we going to lie? Are we going to tell the truth? Are y'all following me? Are we going to lie or are we going to tell the truth? Or are we going to try to evade it to keep from lying and keep from telling the truth? When we get in a situation, are we going to respond or are we going to react? See, because one thing about constantly looking in the word, you keep reminding yourself, this is who I am. That is who I don't want to be. And I definitely don't want to look like that. So you keep going in of what my mind should be versus what it shouldn't be. That's a problem, y'all. We have got to get this thing locked down. And we've got to be true to who we are. Because believe it or not, the world is watching us. They're watching us. And they're watching us with a fine tooth comb. Because they're really trying to see, are these people really who they are? Because if you notice, how many times do you see them fighting one another? How many platforms do you see them coming at each other and fighting each other? You don't. And if they do, you ain't gonna be in there to know it. Right. How many posts do you see them posting against one another and constantly fighting with one another? You don't. Because their mindset, we are not. That's important. Looks at his natural face in a mirror, where he looks at himself and goes away and immediately forgets what he was like. But he that looketh into the perfect Torah, that of freedom, and continues in it, not becoming a hearer that forgets, but a doer of work, this one shall be root in his doing of the Torah. Then what are we calling? Then what are we doing? How can we say we're walking in truth when actually we are not exemplifying truth out of our lives? You can't say that. That's a problem. I also look at it as this. You have people that are hard to do what they do, and then you got people that do it just because it's for money or it's just a hobby. When it's really what you love to do, nobody have to ask you to do it. Right. People to do stuff if they like doing it. If a person loves to paint and that's their gift, you ain't gotta make them to paint. They'll be like, what you need me to do? I'll do it. I'll draw it out for you. I'll paint it. I'm here to do it. Are y'all following me? That's what they do. People don't have gifts, many of us, and don't want to share the gifts. That's another mindset. Ain't nobody gonna use me. Ain't nobody gonna do this to me. Instead of stopping and saying, I'll be who you root me with this gift for a reason. For me to root our people. Are y'all following me? That's a mindset. And it's a Hellenistic mindset. Few more things, then we're gonna pray. Now, 26, read 26. 26, I read 25. I'm sorry, read 26.
If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridle not his tongue, but deceive his own heart, before Yahuwah and the Abba is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
Okay. Clean and undefiled piousness before the power and the Abba is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. And let's read verse 1 and 2 again. Read verse 1, and then you close it out with verse 2 for me.
Verse 1. Mercies, I encourage you to represent your bodies as a living sacrifice, that is Kodesh and pleasing to Yahuwah. This is your appropriate priestly service. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, verse 2.
Chapter 12, verse 2.
And do not be conformed to this world,
Mhm.
but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you prove what is that great and well-pleasing and perfect desire of power. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now he said, to not be tainted with the world, unstained from the world. Then we come back in the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your what? Mind. Mindset. Unless you change your mind. That is important for us to understand. So that you prove what is that great and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Abba Yahuwah. Until our mindset changes about one another, first and foremost, we will not be able to move. We will not be able to move systematically. We will not be able to move as a people. We should never have to fight one another to fellowship with one another. And we should never have to fight with one another to be in one another's lives. Seeking glory. We're not glory house. We're not front. We're just seeking to be able to understand as a people. Y'all, if we're supposed to be moving somewhere and going somewhere, then how are we going to get there if everybody's going in their own different direction? When you have a people, now understand what I'm about to say, say, hey, we're about to get up out of here. We're going to Africa. We're going to live in Ghana because it's better. Explain to me why and how do you feel that way? Why you feel that way? That says that we don't have enough belief in us as a people to come together and safeguard our own. Because now we got to go somewhere else. I've seen posts that say, you know, burn, baby, burn Babylon down. I'm like, if this was Babylon, that is the stupidest saying I've ever heard in my life. That's like burn the house down, burn it down. And we all in there. While we're in there, exactly. Understand this is not Babylon. No understanding. Mindset. That's the mindset of a foolish person. Then, and when you don't have that, you have the next extreme. Well, we just need to leave away from here. Why? And where are you going to go? Because this is just a place of horror. Y'all call Attack on Darfur. Go watch it. It will have you crying. Because it is not just a movie. It is the reality everywhere.
Right.
Everywhere. And if you don't have the right backing and the right resources, then what are you going to do? Okay. I understand. All right. Because they don't want me to get the truth out and they don't want people to stay. But the bottom line is, y'all, we've got to understand, if Abba Yahuwah has planted your feet here, then understand to build a platform and a place to secure ourselves as a people. Not every man for himself and Abba Yahuwah for us all. It's important that that mindset changes. That we have the mind that says, you know what? We are people, we need to help one another. And we need to be in a position to make it important. Once again, this is what the writings tell us. This is what the writings is telling us. You got to have that mind renewed. Because if we're all not trying to walk in a renewed mind, then we're all going to still have a different perspective, and we're going to all have a different view on things that we should all be seeing the same way. One thing about birth, there's not but really two ways to do a vagina. I'm trying not to say that, but we're adults, and it's the truth. Or you're going to have a C-section. But either way, that baby is coming out from that end. That baby's not coming from that place there. And you must understand, as a people, if we don't get it together and we don't move in the direction we're supposed to move in, because that's the only way we're going to be able to move as a people, then we're going to suffer. Not just one or two people, but as a nation, we're going to suffer. We're going to suffer. Now, once again, I know many times I don't like to hear that, but y'all, it is the truth. And if we don't pull it, any of us, and when they cut the lifeline, many of us are going to be stuck. Then many of us are not going to be stuck, because many of us have already made up in our minds. I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody in my life. I'm going to do what I got to do. And that's the way it's going to be. Y'all, that's not the way it's supposed to be. The people, the Torah is supposed to be like Mercury. It's supposed to draw us together, because that's where we were separated from. If we're all separated from the same womb, from the same birthing place, then we're all supposed to come back there, because that's the thing that we all have in common, is Torah.
God.
We're supposed to be like Mercury. If you ever know anything about Mercury, you break it apart in teeny tiny pieces of balls. If you put that main piece of Mercury in the center, you could have that piece, tiny piece all the way over here, and you start seeing it moving like it's something in it. You start thinking, is that really moving near that? It's trying to get back to what? The source. Abba Yahuwah as a nation, as a people.
God.
That's what we're supposed to do. And if we are not doing the right things, y'all, then guess what? Not just a few of us suffer, but the whole nation suffers.
God.
As a people, if you don't believe me, do it. Just check it out. Every other people will fight and defend their people. They will build communities. They will build shopping plazas. They're going to do what they have to do to represent, to maintain that camaraderie and the unity, and to build it by getting a place for the people to come. We've seen it. And they're going to fight and open their mouths and try to correct you based upon stuff that's not even legitimate, because now they feel like they have a right to do so. They're going to defend and fight for their people. When are we going to start doing it? When are we going to start saying, you know what? That's fine. Let's do this. When are we going to start seeing conflict resolution on some of these platforms, and not it turns so ugly till I'm like, take me out of this. I don't even want to hear no more. Don't want to hear no more of what, because there's no resolve. We're just constantly going over, and then you get another person jump in, and instead of them saying, yo, hold up, we can't do this, they jump in and make the situation worse. It's the truth. It is the truth. And if we don't speak up about these things and do it, y'all, once again, all the stuff that's happening, if a person knows Yahuwah, then he or she is daily at Yahuwah's disposal and walk close to him, whom we've never seen, but yet be so distant from one another. Are y'all following me? I hope I'm making y'all think on the night. I do. I pray that something is being stimulated in your heart and mind that makes you say, that's the truth. I pray daily. I lay out before Abba Yahuwah. I read, but yet I'm still so distant from my people. Something wrong with that. And we're supposed to keep being drawn. We're supposed to be like, hey, if this is going on, I'm not going to leave you out, because we need each other. That's not always the case. Are y'all following me? That's important. All right. Ceremonialism and ritualism alone to meet Yahuwah through 14. I advise you to go back and read those. Listen to the teaching. I'm just kind of going over this. Excuse me. Ritualism, if our hearts do not meet the requirements. You can keep the Sabbath all day long, but if your heart is not clean before him, guess what? It's just like we're not keeping it. And the feast as well, because of the mindset. Once again, that is important that we understand. Now, once again, it's important that we understand excuse me, the scientific or the Hellenistic mindset. And when I say that, this is important for us to understand, because I want to read something to you. And I want you to think about this and think about how many people have taken this mindset and this approach. To a scientifically trained mind, there is much that can be seemingly discarded as error or mindset, the more clarity and comfort that comes as contradictions become revelations. Why? Because no matter how educated we become, until we understand that it is our close walk with Abba Yahuwah that's going to bring us well, we're going to constantly be missing it. In other words, we tend sometimes to take that road that if a person is more educated than another person, then they must have all the answers. And that's not always true, because you got some educated fools out there. It's true, you do. But we've got to learn to distinguish and discern first and foremost what is true versus what is somebody's education or educational opinion or educated opinion.
God.
Their educated opinion on something at all.
God.
I'm going to say that again. If what we are teaching and preaching and promoting is not bringing us together, then we are not doing anything at all. That Hebraic mindset, and get away from that Hellenistic mindset. The Greek or Hellenistic way is to find the strict path of logic, which, while mathematically and rationally principles and approaches that are so much in opposition to the one true power, that the application of such rigorous logic only leads us further from closer to the truth. Well, it's logically to deal with it this way. It's logically to deal with it that way. Logic said if it's raining, really raining, you know, we always use the term cats and dogs, then don't go out there and drive. That's logic. But when we start using logic, I'm about to say, to deal with our brothers that are, I won't say struggling, but that are walking in truth and they're doing the best, they are not arguing, then how is it logically to say, well, we're not going to deal with this group, but we're going to deal with this group only? That's not logic. That's not logic. Are you hearing me? That is you. And that's where, once again, there is a problem. Logic should never be used when we are to look at it from the spiritual or discern it from a spiritual aspect. Never. Because logic is always going to tell you something is wrong when it is dealing with the spirit realm and dealing with the spiritual aspect of this walk and dealing with people. Are y'all following me? That's where we have to, that's where we have to really change our perspective and our mindset. Because until that mindset changes, guess what? You can look into the perfect law of liberty. But until that mind says, I'm looking in there for me, help me, I'll be a whore, to see me so that I can change, so that I can really begin to fight to get to the core. And you are the core, the center of everything, so that while I'm getting there, I'm pulling my brother, my sister with me, and we're going to make it. Until that is the true heart's desire, y'all, once again, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? You know, we say we don't discriminate, but yes, we do. We discriminate against our own in a very bad way. Big time. We'll tell this one, I love you, and we'll tell that one something else. Y'all, something wrong with that picture. Something wrong with that picture. But it's a time that we need to open up our hearts and our minds to the things of our Yahuwah. Once again, Jeremiah 12 and 1 and 2. I call upon you, therefore, brothers, through the compassion of Yahuwah, and sisters too, to present your bodies a living offering set apart, well-pleasing to Yahuwah, your reasonable worship. And do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you prove what is that good or great and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Yahuwah. Until we do that, yeah, we're gonna constantly be bumping heads and go on in different directions. There's different mindsets, y'all, many times that we don't realize that we're walking in, because we've been so accustomed to saying that's just me. Is it just you? Do you really know who you are, or are you just going off of what you've been all your life? And until we are, once again, faced or challenged with seeing the real us in truth, we tend to continue to do the same things we used to do over and over again. And that's been drilled into our ancestors, and then it just popped out through us, and we've not changed because we feel like it's just who I am. That's not so. Once again, it is never, ever, it should never be okay to hurt your brother or your sister and not go back and get it right. Never. It should never be that you ever desire to hurt them. I don't care how things go, that should never be, period. And if you know you've hurt your brother or your sister, then the thing you ought to want to do is to repent and get it right. Are y'all following me? Now, I ain't talking about you getting rebuked or getting scolded because you try to do something or say something to them and you don't go back and get that right. Something is wrong with that, y'all. Part of that remnant. How about you? It's only going to be a remnant, and I'm going to be a part of that. Once again, remember, truth is to be experienced. Deed matters more than creed with Abba Yahuwah. You may have had a bad experience with a Hebrew. Count it to their head, not their heart. They could be immature. Count it to their head. But this is where we as a people have got to come, y'all. All the stuff that's going on. Snow just came up like that. And other northern states and Louisiana down south, where they're getting bombarded with snow. And people, oh, this is the harp, and this is that, and this is this. And people are saying, y'all, they're messing with the weather. And think about it. If they are, what are we doing? What is the solution? Don't tell me the problem. Give me a solution. What do I need to do to be able to endure and outlast this thing? I don't need more information about something I already know. Give me a solution. Give me a solution. And then let's move forward and let's start making things happen on the real. It's important that we do so, because eventually we're going to go to flip on and say, oh, I'm about to go on and I'm about to message so-and-so. I'm about to do this. And guess what? It's going to probably say, no longer available. No longer available. And then many of us going to be scrambling because we kind of figure out, I can't remember. I can't remember. Because we're not building.
Right.
We're not building healthy relationships. That's important to understand. Very important. Remember, we love you. We're praying for you here. And I'm not just telling you that. We are praying for you. We call your name out. We know your name. And you come in here. And even if you come for 1 or 2 times, we're praying. And that is not just a message. I say, well, we got a message of love and hope for the world. No, we got a message of love. Be in and upon the Torah, because you can't go wrong. And while you're doing that, don't forget that you have people. You have mishpachah. Never, ever allow anybody to feel alone. If it's in your power to make sure, hey, I'm just reaching out to let you know I was thinking about you. I just want to know, I didn't see, I wanted you to know you're in my heart, you're in my mind. Not us as a people. We too great of a people and too big of a people to let people be walking around here talking. Just talk now. But I pray that something has been said that stimulated your mind, make you think. Remember Maya chapter 1. Oh, you, Corinne, you know we ain't forgetting you are. You family. You know we can't forget you. We can't forget you. Nathan Charles, we can't forget you. That's right, I'm calling names. We cannot forget y'all. Won't forget the other ones that are here and that constantly come. Y'all support us. I'm not gonna sit up here and act like no, you support us. You support us with your time. You support us with your comments, and we appreciate that. I appreciate it. I do. And I appreciate everybody that tunes in. Those that don't listen, that come in and they're the silent people, don't say nothing. Remember you. We're praying you too. That's what we're supposed to do. Do you not know? And seriously, I'm about to close. When you pray with a person, you become closer with them because you experience what they've experienced. You feel their heart. You understand to a degree that this thing is troubling. You come under that burden with them. And until that thing is lifted, you're right there. You're there. That's the way it's supposed to be. But never should anybody feel isolated and alone. Especially when we have a big platform like this. Fine. We appreciate that. Once again, we appreciate y'all and we love you. We appreciate you. We do. So with that being said, I pray that you enjoy the rest of your Layla. Remember the mindset. We cannot have a Hebraic mindset. Those two mindsets won't mix. One is going to cancel out the other. That's why we got to stick with the Hebraic mindset. Once again, we have you. We're praying with you. And we're praying for you. If you know anybody caught up in that storm, let them know we're praying with them. We're praying for their relief. And we are praying that the Abba will show mercy in this hour and in this season to us as a people. And those of you that may not have experienced y'all, but you feel the weather doing some funny stuff, they have a way of shifting. They told us it wasn't going to snow. We're going to have nothing. Next thing we know, we was knee deep in snow. Get your water, get your snacks, get your wood, your burners. If you have a Dollar Tree, get those little burners, those dollar burners, and those trays. You can keep food warm in those. You can even cook on those things. Get your little stoves. Get those things. You're in knee-deep snow, and you have no supplies, and people have to get to you later. Make sure you have plenty of blankets. Make sure you have a kerosene heater. If you don't have a kerosene heater, make sure you have a propane heater, because they have those too. If you lose power, you still you're able to live, not just survive, but live until things change for you. Once again, it's time for us to connect. The move is on. I am Leah Yashara, and I am the Mora of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, a Hebraic Belief congregation located in South Carolina. I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom, Hebraic Belief congregation, this is the place where the Torah does the body excellent. Until next time, remember, the move is on. Work smarter and harder. Also, you've been touched by Champion TV, a place where